it's interesting to see how, like, from a robustness perspective, even the rhythm of maybe being able to maintain like a tempo on a single leg squat, like be like, hey, I want you to do this. I ask a more developed athlete who has good sense of internal timing. Okay, I want you to do this on a 303 tempo, 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. I won't use a clock if I don't have to at first. Like, let's just see if you can do that, or I'll count. And it seems like the athletes who are more predisposed to injury, they just don't they just don't have it figured out. They're just kind of flying through the movement. And I think there's something to, I mean, I like, we tend to think of rhythm too, and rightly so. It's like, even like the rhythmic A skip, B skip drills, or rhythmic hurdle drills, or those rhythmic hops. But I think there's something to be said, in my opinion, about just being able to control on even internal rhythm of movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going through the range of motion, controlling. Because I've seen a discrepancy between athletes who are more and less robust, and just like you could call them like in mastery of their bodies, with just being able to hold counts on slow, boring stuff. We'd oftentimes I think like a 505 squat. Oh, that's not explosive. That's not excellent. But I've actually increased my own vertical jump using that type of stuff before. And I think it wouldn't work forever, but the gains in control, I think, were really beneficial.
I never really played with tempo. I know, a lot of the sort of the Poliquin lineage loves tempo. And I've been very influenced by elements of the Poliquin lineage. But I haven't really gone into that, but it makes sense to me. And, I've done dance, right? And I think that's huge. And I think that, you were asking me about Josef Frušek from Fighting Monkey. And, I actually asked him this question because I felt like his understanding of rhythm is better than my understanding of rhythm, right? Because he's been a core, he's a choreographer, right? He's a professional choreographer. That's what he does. Sort of like, how do we help athletes have better rhythm? And Josef's a mystery man, right? So you ask him a question today, you get one answer. You ask him the same question tomorrow, you might get a different answer. But what he talked about the first time that I talked to him about that was like, when you find an athlete in rhythm, break their rhythm and then make them find it again. Right? So his big thing was challenging it, like forcing the athlete to do it. And I think there's some utility to that. I don't think that's the solution always, right? I think, some of the stuff that I've been absorbing from like the perception action literature and the idea of cognitive load. It's like you want to manage the athlete's cognitive load, basically. Right? You want them to be optimally challenged. And maybe optimal challenge is more variable than we think. Like a bunch of people have been pointing out Andrew Huberman to me recently, and he's been talking about how like your neuroplasticity jumps up directly after having a feeling of frustration, which actually maybe that aligns with Josef's work, because they do these coordinations, right? They're like, essentially they make you do really fast-paced choreography where you're bound to fail, and then they just keep you doing it for a really long time. But yeah, maybe that's stimulating a huge amount of of brain growth and neuroplasticity. But I also think there's some real utility in like a prolonged access to the flow state, right, and being able to find it, so you can play with both. The other thing he mentioned in one of the seminars was like, just everybody should do African tribal dance. Like, just go do some kind of tribal, highly rhythmic dance, and it will improve you as an athlete. And I had a conversation recently with Simon Thacker, which I think you may find really interesting. We're talking about the role of dance within the idea of the adaptive athlete and what exactly dance is, because it's like it's easy to make to describe why an adaptable athlete might want to be able to do parkour, or might want to be able to do martial arts, or even like be able to escape, evade, hit, throw, all the things that come out of like team sport. But why dance? And there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes out of the conversation around self-expression and around essentially producing like emotional states in the athlete, and how much those emotional states impact the capacity to grow and adapt. But one of the things that we talked about, is the idea that like so often really great athletes have a dance background. And fighters seem to do well in dance. And dance often sort of exists within fighting circles. We talk about Israel Adesanya, right? Israel Adesanya, you know, he just lost, but still he's one of the greatest MMA fighters in the world. And my understanding is that Israel Adesanya didn't start training MMA until he was 18 years old, but he was a hip hop dancer. So he did tons and tons of hip hop dance at a high level. And then at 18 years old, he walks into a fight gym and takes a fight a week later. And you see him, you see that aspect of him. I was watching him in this fight, and it literally looks like he's doing the robot in order to create an illusion, right? He's trying to manipulate the perceptual system of his opponent by shifting the way that he's moving outside of the norm, right? And breaking that rhythm aspect. So here's an argument for the utility of dance. And I think, you know, you've been talking, you mentioned earlier on the podcast, like, I think dance is awesome for warm up. And yeah, totally agree. Like add some rhythm components. And I've done it with the parkour stuff. Like I've gone out to the trees and just been like, I'm going to try to basically move my weight with the rhythm of the song. And so I'll start with the weight placements, just like, right. Just on the ground next to the thing. And then I'll start like tapping it with my feet or tapping with my hands and just start to feel the rhythm. And then I'll start trying to move it, right? And then I'll start trying to catch the moods of the song. It's like, if it's like a big crescendo, it's like moving high in the air, flowing through the air, right? If it's down, it's like boom, down to the objects, right? Like hitting those things and playing with them. And definitely some of the coolest like flow state experiences have come out of that.
I love that. I like, man, that's such a cool anecdote with the hip hop dancer who turned MMA. There was one thing I notice about athletes sometimes who have a dance background is just my perception is they have, like I talked about the hands before, and to me it seems like they tend to have a very wide array of the ways. I've talked with other jump coaches about this. You could have like Spock hand. I'm kind of doing this with my hands right now, but like different hand or pinky finger out or whatever to like the pinky toe up. Like there's these different manipulations, and they seem to be very masterful on the way they manipulate their hands to meet the situation. Like if it's like jumping over a high hurdle or something like that, compared to perhaps an average population. And you mentioned the African dance, and I don't remember the ethnicity. I feel like it's multiple ethnicities. I've been sent this video of this like kind of dance this person's doing where it's just like extremely rapid heel taps. There's always like this rapid, I'll put it in the show notes if I can find it, but it's like literally this person's tapping their heel and moving their foot around like circular motions, and they got to be tapping like 5 to 7 times a second. It's like, it's mind blowing how much and fast these feet are firing in this little space, and they're able to coordinate the rest of their body in that context. It's almost like playing defense on someone times 5, like speed up times 5. So I agree with you. I definitely actually have to watch maybe more that dancing too to kind of get that in my head, but I definitely believe it.